Can you imagine buying the perfect lot of land here in Iowa, whether big or small, to build your dream home, but you make a mistake because you didn't do your due diligence? Maybe that is ignoring drainage issues, assuming utilities are easily available, neglecting access rights, and on and on. Well, in this video, we're going to go over the 7 biggest mistakes when buying land in Iowa. Before we do, though, we are licensed agents in the state of Iowa and would love to help you. You can take a look at some of our past clients and what they say about us on your screen right now. If you'd like to work with us, all you got to do is give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email, as we would love to work with you as well. Now, before we get to the 7, I did want to mention this. Some piece of land, a survey would be a good idea. It's not that expensive, and it can give that peace of mind if the property or land makes sense for this. With no further ado, let's get to the top 7 mistakes when buying land in Iowa. Number 1. The listing agents are representing the seller, so I want you to remember that. I'm sure many buyers go straight to the listing agent, but the listing agent's interest is in the seller, not yours. So first up is checking zoning laws. First off, are you buying this lot of land to live on? Do you plan on running a business? Do you plan on farming? Is this an area going to be developed, and in what way? These are things you must know prior to purchasing any lot of land. Is it zoned residential, and what kind of residential zoning is it? Is it R1, that is primarily going to be one-family detached dwellings, but can be churches, schools, fire stations, libraries, publicly owned parks, golf courses, and on, just to name a few? Then there is R2, that can include single-family homes, multifamily, and mixed residential zoning. There is R3, that is medium-density zoning, that is mostly multifamily, but can include some single-family homes as well. R4 is medium to high-density residential zoning, that is going to be multifamily housing that can include large buildings or apartment complexes. Keep in mind that most residential zoning that I know of in Iowa will not allow a business to be operated out of the home. That would disrupt the entire neighborhood. So any customer traffic, buildings that do not fit the code, and trucks coming in and out of the neighborhood will not be allowed in residential zoning. This is the main zoning I want to cover. There are other land zoning that we are not going to cover to keep this video at a decent length, but they are commercial, industrial, critical natural resources, multifamily, that includes R3 and R4. Zoning is obviously a really big deal and one I would recommend having a realtor for. But we have 6 more mistakes to avoid, so let's keep going. Number 2 is ignoring soil quality and drainage issues. In Iowa, we are known as an agricultural state, and we have some of the most fertile soil in the entire world. But farmers and us humans spray a lot of chemicals on our land here in Iowa. If you plan to grow anything on that land, you may want to consider doing a soil test to make sure the land isn't toxic. If you Google how to test soil in Iowa, you will be led to Iowa State University Extension and Outreach, where you can submit soil samples for testing. For our soil at our house, we use fixmysoil.com and send it to them. They are in southern Minnesota, but for a land deal, they're probably going to want to go to Iowa State University. Either way, if you're growing anything in Iowa, you may want to make sure your soil is not toxic. Another thing not to ignore is drainage. Does the water have somewhere to go? What is the underground water table like under that land? Is the land that you want to build on positioned where water can flow away from the home? Water can be a huge problem, especially if you ignore drainage when considering which land to buy here in Iowa. Number 3, not understanding easements and the right-of-ways. Again, we are not going to cover every easement, as this video would be way too long. But the main 4 easements in Iowa are public utility easements, public drainage easements, private easements, and private drainage easements. I want to break down what an easement can mean for you. Let's say you have a utility easement on the land you are considering purchasing. What does this mean? It means the utility companies have the right to work on that land in the event they need to. If you have a fence, a dwelling, a garage, concrete, or anything else, the utility company actually has a right to tear any of those down to work on the utility that is underground there. Again, we're not going to cover all these, but let's say you have a drainage easement on the land you are purchasing. That means if they need to alter that drainage area or work on it in any capacity, they can and will get into that even if your home is on it. Another big thing is the right of way, and a very common one is a shared driveway. There typically are recorded agreements to shared driveways that outline all the details of the agreement the parties have in regards to the driveway. This means if part of the driveway starts to break down, if it is concrete, you and the other party or parties have to have this recorded on what happens. And if you don't have an agreement, even access to your home can become a huge dispute. If there is something like a boat dock that is in the area, there can be agreements that a neighbor can drive through the other neighbor's property to access the boat ramp. All in all, each piece of land can have easements and right-of-ways. You need to know them before a costly mistake happens. Number 4, assuming utilities are easily available. I recently showed a home to a family that I have been working with from this channel in Cedar Rapids area. We came across an acreage that was in southeast Cedar Rapids. And believe it or not, we could not find internet access to the home and had to dig deep into that. Now with land, you can have an even more extreme example, as you can't assume just because you bought land that you will have access to electricity, water, or internet here in Iowa. This is something you need to do a ton of due diligence on, as there are rural parts of Iowa where you may not have access to any of the three. Number 5, buying land in a flood zone without researching flood maps. It may sound silly, but if you are not in real estate, you may not think of something so simple, and you better make sure you have an agent who cares. That is why lots of people choose us to represent them. Just give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email. Not only should you know where the flood zones are, but you also have to think about insurance. If the land is in the flood zone, you most likely will have to have flood insurance, which ups the amount per month you will owe. Also, if it does flood and you weren't expecting it, then you will be in a world of trouble with all the cleanup. And you may find out after all of this that you never wanted to buy the land or build on this in the first place. Number 6, underestimating septic system requirements. Where does the septic system go? Especially if you are building a home or have a dream home in mind. This needs to be thought out prior to buying the land. Does it have a drainage field area for the septic system? The last thing you want to do is buy the land and then find out the health codes won't approve a septic system on your land due to the layout, or worse, you have to build a smaller home or different type of home you weren't hoping for because this wasn't thought out. This can at the worst acquire additional expenses and adjustments that can be a huge painful mistake. Number 7, ignorant to long-term property taxes and costs. Where I mostly represent people in is Lynn County, Johnson County, and neighboring counties to Lynn and Johnson County. You should get an idea what the property taxes are most likely going to cost you, especially if it is land that you are going to build on. Check with similar sized lots or farms and check out their property taxes that have a home on it. Also expect those taxes to go up over the years. As we all know, taxes don't go down over time. Is there anything with drainage soil that won't grow grass, or any costs that you think will affect other costs in the future? Some places in Iowa are more flat and straight line winds can be a problem, and if you are in a wooded area, then trees can become a huge cost. Overall, make sure all the taxes and costs associated with the land you buy are thought out. Before I let you go, we did a video that goes hand in hand with this one, as it goes over eminent domain and the pipeline approved here in Iowa. The government may take landowners' land, and it is important to watch this, so click the link above to view that video.